Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. When it comes to War Thunder, there is another It's Fixed article which has come out. And it's not really a surprise because of the fact that there has been a ton of additions to War Thunder over the last few weeks. There has been obviously 2 updates. There's been the 10th anniversary, they've had the sales, they've had multiple events, the battle pass starting. It's been an absolute crazy time. The other thing that is going on right now is of course the Twitch drops, and the second stage of them has started today, so make sure to come along to the Twitch channel to get yourself the M1A2 Sep skin and also the Q5L skin and a decorator on top of it, which is quite nice. So when it comes to the It's Fixed stuff, there's a bunch of different things that we'll get into, a lot of general fixes and also a lot of other stuff. There's a few data mines, having a look at some of the fixes over the last few days as well, so we could have a look at that later on to see what's going on. But the main thing is make sure to get yourself down to Twitch to get yourself some free stuff when it comes to War Thunder. Also, at the same time, if you enjoy the channel, make sure to subscribe, and if you enjoy the video, make sure to like it. So as usual, when it comes to the It's Fixed article, they focus in on a few areas of the changelog, and then the changelog has the broader changes. The stuff that they focus on is, first of all, with laser and bombs, with the Q5L and the GR7. Both of these vehicles had 2 sets of sensors on them, one installed by default and one on the targeting pod, which obviously you have to get the modification for. Pretty much the sensor on the nose of the aircraft is a narrow angle sensor and can't look backwards, whereas the targeting pod has a much better view. One of the problems though is when using third person view, the sensor on the targeting pod was ignored in favor of the frontal sensor. So this meant that laser designation to break when the aircraft passed over a target, and it rendered the guided bombs useless. So you had to kind of approach it, beforehand. So luckily that's fixed now. So now the Q5L and the GR7 should be more useful in ground forces. The Q5L is a super sad story for me when looking at it when it came to the files and when it came to the dev server. I was really hoping that it would make a bit of a splash, but unfortunately it's just missing some key features. Missiles, countermeasures just make this thing not very good and very hard to grind to make it useful when it comes to ground forces. The Harrier GR7 is very good though, an incredibly fun vehicle to play. Then also, when it comes to stationary guns in War Thunder, one of the things is they have confined targeting angles that they can shoot at. But one of the problems, at least one of the bugs that was going on, is these targeting angles were not actually shown. So basically, other players would see vehicles shooting from all guns into multiple directions. And obviously this is not what was happening on the other end of things, but this confused the player. And this is also a bug that's been happening for a long time. So hopefully this one is finally fixed. I remember back in the day when War Thunder was officially announced. Oh, sorry, not officially announced, but instead officially out of beta. Like it was launched as a game. This was like 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they introduced a bug which was super similar to this. So what would happen is a person would have their turret turned to a specific position, and so you're like, okay, I can go around the corner and shoot this guy because he's not looking at me. And then you would go around the corner, and then he would shoot you because his turret was actually looking at you, but you couldn't tell it was looking at you because the game was bugged. So I'm glad that they're fixing more issues like that, and I hope to never see any of those issues again because they are legitimately game breaking. Then we also have a Don't Look Up one. So basically, the error was well known for a long time, this one, so this is a long-standing bug that they've finally been able to fix, and it says the problem concerned naval battles. Each swap between first-person and third-person views slightly shifted the sights upwards, making the shells fly farther. It won't happen again, the sights will remain in place, and your shots will hit the mark. Well, that's nice to hear, because one of the things that's annoying about Naval is how inaccurate a lot of the guns are at range. For obvious reasons, dispersion is a thing in real life, But yeah, that's why I actually expert all of my destroyer crews and most of my crews for Naval, because I just need my guns to be more accurate than they are. So the accompanying updates to It's Fixed was 2.21.1.57, and they have done a bunch of changes pretty much for everything, starting off with the ground vehicles. So there was another bug with the Churchill Crocodile's fuel trailer, not a surprise. Basically, it was attached to destroyed tank hulls. This was quite a funny bug though, because technically the fuel trailer, the way that they had it coded, it counted as a vehicle, or it counted as like a tank. So if the Churchill Crocodile died on a cap, but the fuel tank was still alive, you couldn't cap that point, because it counted as like an enemy tank. But obviously people didn't know about it, so hopefully that bug's fixed now. There was also a bug fixed which caused forward machine guns to continue to fire for other players, while the fire was stopped due to limited targeting angles. This has been a bug for maybe 6 or 7 years now, so I will have to once again see if it's fixed. I feel like it probably isn't. But that was the one that they were talking about before. Also, the ZTZ-99-2, there was a bug fixed with an overestimated displayed side armor exceeding 50mm. Oh my, 50mm, watch out. The Sublinder, there was a bug on its unexpendable round in the ammo rack, so looks like it can actually use that now. The Sturm Tiger, they also changed, so its gun elevation has been increased to 72, just in case you want to try and bop somebody across the map. And also, the horizontal targeting angles have been increased to -11 + 11 from -3 + 3. So this thing obviously has been buffed. Will it make a difference? No. When it comes to the Sturm Tiger, a lot of people have asked my opinion on it, and it's a pretty simple one. The Sturm Tiger is really nice to see in the game. It's an iconic World War II vehicle, and it is something which a lot of people have been looking forward to for a long time, including myself, so I'm happy to see it. Is it a good vehicle? No. Of course it's not a good vehicle. It's never going to be a good vehicle. It has too many weaknesses to it. I think when it comes to vehicles like this, which don't really fit the game, it might be an idea of maybe limiting them to arcade or limiting them to custom battles, because of the fact that they are just going to absolutely annihilate the matchmaker, because you can't fit them in anywhere. Because of their general characteristics. That's what I would actually do with First World War vehicles. I've talked about the idea of doing an event in the past where you have the first ever battle, of First World War tanks, and you're able to play both sides. Maybe you play like five battles on each side, or 10 battles on each side. You get access to the First World War vehicles, but you can't bring them into actual battles, and they sit in your hangar, and you can kind of bring them into custom battles or bring them in other areas, but you can't annihilate the matchmaking, which I think is probably a better idea. The Breda 501, they've actually changed its mobility. They've decreased its horsepower by 2, but they've also increased its engine's RPM to 2400. So this should actually mean that it is actually moving around a little bit quicker, and also I believe they changed its gear ratios, so it should go backwards, or maybe not gear ratios, but they increased its like maximum speed on each side, so it should be quite nice. The Santal, they actually added airstrike and improved optics modifications to it. So the Santal for the French actually now has access to scouting, which is fine for it, that's good. It's an AA and it can't attack ground vehicles, so of course it should have scouting. But I will wager that there are more vehicles that should get this, and they're tank destroyers. Could we please have a little bit of love for tank destroyers at the highest echelon of the game? I'm talking about vehicles like the PBV-302. This thing has an 80 gem and a 20mm, and it doesn't have scouting. It's at 8.3, it's completely useless. You will never see it in games unless people are really, really dedicated when it comes to the Swedish tech tree. Then you have other vehicles that are sat around the place. Vehicles like the Sturm S, for example, or even the Chrysanthema. which do have their place in the game and can work very well, but I feel like scouting could be really nice for them to make them a little bit more useful at the end of the day. There's also a bunch of other high-tier tank destroyers which could do with this. The ZT-3A2 is one of them for the British. The ZT-3A2, another ATGM carrier that doesn't get access to scouting, which just sucks. And the question is, I pose to you, is, oh, well, people are going to say, well, they're tank destroyers, why'd they get scouting? The Weasel 1A2, a tank destroyer, has access to scouting. Like that, and that thing is at 9.7. So therefore, why does that get scouting and these other ATGM launchers do? The ASU-57 is a tank destroyer. The ASU-85 is a tank destroyer. Both of those get scouting. Just give it to these higher echelon machines, which are rubbish and they don't work very well. Same with stuff like the M113A1 TOW. Just give that scouting. How about the AFT-09? Like, that thing doesn't have scouting either. You know, just, you need to make these ATGM carriers a little bit more useful to use. So, just like the AAs, I would give them access to the mechanic as well. Otherwise, they're just not going to be seen on the battlefield, which is very sad. The Stormer HVM, they fixed the bug which might cause lost control over the Starstreak missile on winter maps. It was always funny watching weird videos of the Starstreak missile just kind of doing what it wanted to do. The other thing as well is the fact that it's very odd that it only happened on winter maps for some reason. The M8 LAC, the terms of achieving the winter camo have been added. It's 30 kills overall, which is fine, isn't too bad. For aircraft, you have some changes to helis, the AH-1G for the Israelis and the Americans. They fixed a bug where the description of the right grenade launcher in X-ray mode was missing. So there you go. The Lynx, G-Lynx and A109, there's also a fixed bug for the secondary weapon menu, so it looks a little bit better and makes more sense. The Mirage 5F, they fixed a bug when selecting a weapon preset which contained the Sneb rockets. Another weapon preset was installed instead as well. The Ka-52, there was a bug that was fixed where a tube cover remained in the air after jettisoning the Vickers ATGM launcher. By the way, that's one of those features that was added to the game, which I feel like goes underappreciated. The jettisoning effect of the pods and also the automatic jettisoning. I really like it. It's one of those things that was added and I feel like overshadowed by other things. And I just wanna say it's a really lovely little addition to the game. Then the SU-17s, SU-22s, they continue to be changed, but this time only a small one. The description has been added for the gun pods in X-ray mode. Incorrect distance info for the helicopter's gunner sight with the stabilizer off has also been fixed. And of course the AH Mark 1, since that also gets access to Starstreak missiles, that is able to get the fix that the Stormer got when it goes to his missiles as well. In Naval, there was a bunch of different things. So there was a bug fixed where the fire control system didn't take into account players' ship speed when displaying the lead marker at distances up to 4.5 kilometers. So it just didn't work. It's pretty much as simple as that. There was also a bug in Naval EC where the ship's hydroplane didn't take off from the catapult when it was relaunched. That has now been fixed. The PR-1331M, there was a bug which caused the first order ammo racks of the 76 not to refill. That would be an absolute pain. And the gearing, there was a bug fixed with the ship to receive an inflated number of torpedoes when selecting a weapon preset. So that has been fixed as well. The last one is with the graphical stuff, graphic artifacts in the form of stretching and compressing textures that could appear in the AMD Radeon RX 6000 series GPUs has been fixed as well. For me personally, War Thunder's actually been running alright. It's been quite nice even after the long sessions when it comes to streaming. Everything seems to be running okay, touch wood of course. Anyway, that is the changelog, that is the It's Fixed. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R, Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.